Some of the challenges that we've seen in the field, which is what we want to talk about today, is how these home inspectors, which I want to preface this by saying they are general home inspectors, they're not going to have the same experience as somebody like Adam and his team with that full-on construction background that are licensed, insured general contractors. So they're seeing things that they are taught to look for in general home inspector school, right?
Correct.
Very rarely do we come across these guys that actually have a construction or general contractor background. Almost never, I would say I see that.
Welcome to Tampa Home Talk with your host, native Tampa real estate girl, Katrina Madewell, a full-time, passionate, out-of-the-box thinker, love for home ownership kind of realtor with over 21 years of combined mortgage and real estate experience. Tune in every week at this time for expert advice on everything you need to know about home ownership, finance, maintaining great credit, building wealth, and making your everyday life better, and how you can be financially successful today and tomorrow. Remember, love where you live or let Katrina fix it. Now, here's your host of Tampa Home Talk, Katrina Madewell.
Welcome. This is Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell, and we are introducing Mr. Adam Boudreaux. He is, did I butcher your name? Boudreaux? Boudreaux. With Tactical Roofing and Construction. And he is one of our amazing partners in the field in real estate that we have worked with many, many times over. Like, I can't tell you that. I'll tell you all about Adam and some of the stuff he does and the list of things that his team cleans up along the way. But a little bit about him personally. It's Dr. Adam Boudreaux. And he's a native Florida guy right here from Cocoa Beach.
Yes, ma'am.
Migrated to the other side of the state and 100% service disabled U.S. Air Force veteran. Thank you for serving.
Thank you.
And he served 9 years active duty, 3 years deployment with the first Gulf War, extensive construction background, which we know all about. We're going to talk about that during this show. And he also has commercial project management nationwide, all sorts of federal, probably half government, half civilian type jobs.
Yes, ma'am.
And just really extensive construction background, aside from your bachelor's degree in business and MBA and doctorate in leadership and organizational deployment. I would love to hear about that. I'm sure your military background ties into what you do today.
Yes, ma'am.
And you run your company alongside with your wife, Pamela, and clients all across Tampa Bay.
Yes, ma'am.
Did I do a pretty good job on your intro?
That's me.
Okay, great. So we're going to talk today about 4-point inspections and how that's different than the home inspection and why it matters. And we're going to kind of give you a little more information, because just because you get something on a 4-point inspection doesn't mean that it's the holy grail and it's an absolute end all be all. First of all, let me tell you what a 4-point inspection is. So the 4-point inspection, and Adam, please jump in. That came into play, 10 or 12, 15 years ago?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep.
15 years ago, maybe? Has it been that long?
15-ish.
Okay. So the state of Florida basically came in. They said, all right, your construction standards need to be up there. Insurance companies want to know what they're insuring. So we want to look at the specs on your roof, your HVAC, your electrical system, and your plumbing.
Correct.
Hence the 4-point inspection. So those 4 items. Now, depending on the age of the home, is it 20 years or older it needs a 4-point?
Now all homes do.
All of them. Okay.
Yes,
even
ma'am.
brand new ones, they want that?
Even new homes. Well, if you're buying new from a builder, no. But a 3-year-old home does need a 4-point.
Okay. So the 4-point inspection tells the insurance company how they're insuring, what they're insuring. There's a whole bunch of stuff on this. And some of the challenges that we've seen in the field, which is what we want to talk about today, is how these home inspectors, which I want to preface this by saying they are general home inspectors. They're not going to have the same experience as somebody like Adam and his team with that full-on construction background that are licensed, insured general contractors. So they're seeing things that they are taught to look for in general home inspector school, right?
Correct.
Very rarely do we come across these guys that actually have a construction or general contractor background. Almost never, I would say I see that.
Rarely.
So a lot of times there's stuff that's getting flagged on there or failed on the 4-point that really maybe isn't a problem when you go out there and look at it. And you can use some examples recently that we've seen.
Well, one of the projects that we worked on, so I got the 4-point inspection, and it actually had that the dishwasher was leaking. Well, the dishwasher is an appliance. It's not technically part of the 4-point. The 4-point's looking at the core essential components of the home. So the electrical panel, the wiring, the outlets. It's looking at plumbing in terms of your drains, your valves, your supply lines to your refrigerator, stuff like that. Appliances, if your refrigerator is leaking, if your dishwasher is leaking, that's not a 4-point issue. That's an appliance issue. So
and by the way, an appliance, on going back to the bolts of the contract, is considered a personal item, right?
Correct.
So we tell people, if you turn the house upside down, anything that would fall is a personal item. Anything that is permanently attached is real property, right?
Exactly. Yes, ma'am.
So hence it's an appliance.
Absolutely. And so I've seen inspectors that will put appliances down or random stuff that doesn't really apply to a 4-point. And it creates problems in the contract because to get a clean 4-point inspection to have a home insurable and that you can bind your insurance, now we have to argue with that inspector to get it cleared.
Right. So what do we do in that situation? Like, can you guys do your own 4-point, or are we just going back to them going, hey, this is not really like an insurance thing. This is an appliance thing.
Education. At the end of the day, I think my biggest role and the thing I enjoy the most is probably the education piece of educating realtors. They may not know, educating the buyers, the sellers, and frequently I'm educating the home inspectors. You mentioned that they do home inspection school. So in the state of Florida, to have a home inspector's license, it's a 12-hour education requirement. You have to pass a test. To have a general contractor's license, you have to demonstrate 4 years of experience. It includes multiple floor construction. You have to have worked underneath another licensed individual. It's 3 tests that are trade knowledge, business and law, finance, and it's much, much more comprehensive.
Right.
So when comparing the two.
It's not a 12-hour test.
Definitely
12-hour
not.
school with a test.
So, I don't ever take an approach that speaks down to somebody,
Right.
But I just try to educate them. Hey, so in the future, you will know you're not making this mistake again. And I try to, both clients and people that are on the other side of the table, come alongside them, educate them, help them understand the process, and then they can navigate the process much better.
Well, and here's the thing, Adam. So when the inspectors are hired, by their buyer to go out there to do a home inspection, typically you're going to have 3 different inspections. So you're going to have your general home inspection, which should include all of those things, including the leaky dishwasher we're talking about.
Yep.
Your 4-point inspection, which is really for your insurance company for all of those major components that we listed. And then your wind mitigation inspection, which tells them how your roof is attached to your trusses and what
Correct.
type of materials are on there, et cetera.
Yes.
If there's
So
leaks.
the wind mitigation is the roof portion of the 4-point, just more detail included. Insurance companies, obviously with Florida, with hurricanes, with wind protection, they want to make sure that the homes are going to survive a storm.
Right.
So.
Well, or if the storm rolls in, how will that house hold up? Right.
Exactly.
So
the insurance companies are all about mitigating risk.
Right.
And so they want to know what is the risk that we're taking on.
Which we've talked about this before on the show, how the pendulum has just swung so far, right? And you own a roofing company, so yes, sometimes these roofs are at the end of their lives, but I find that insurance companies are making homeowners replace these roofs way too soon when they still have life left on them.
So one of the problems with the insurance requiring the roof replacement on a roof that's, say, 10, 12, 15 years old, has life left on the shingles. The insurance company is not necessarily worried about the shingles. They're worried about the roof to deck attachment. Mm-hmm. So 2023 building code requires that we re-nail the deck. Every roofing company has to do the same thing.
Would you break that down for the person listening? Because that's definitely contractor term. So break that down. When you say re-nail the deck, what do you mean?
So we strip the entire roof off to your bare plywood. Then we re-nail the entire deck, the whole roof, down to the trusses or rafters with 2 3/4-inch ring shank nails that meet current building code.
So the nails were different and the spacing was different before the building code
Correct.
changed?
It used to be every 12 inches in the field. Now it's every 6. The state of Florida has done a phenomenal job as a state to manage the building code process and to be reactive to what we learn when we go through storms. So prior to Hurricane Andrew, all of the code was about lateral forces, the sideways winds that hit your house. And they realized that when the wind hits your house, then it turns upward, rips the roof right off the house. So they completely changed building code following Hurricane Andrew.
I was going to say, I don't remember any building code changes until Andrew. So I'm glad it wasn't just me.
Yes, the state did a great job at responding to it. And At the end of the
Andrew
day,
was a huge storm. I mean,
it was Category
Andrew was
5.
massive.
It totally ravaged the state.
Yeah, it really did.
And at the end of the day, permit agencies, the state building code, all that they are interested in is protecting public health.
Right.
Unfortunately, from contractors, because there's a lot of shady contractors out there that don't do stuff to code. And then it creates potential fire liabilities. The home could fall. We have situations where down in Fort Lauderdale, the entire apartment complex collapsed, a bridge collapsed. That's all faulty construction.
Yeah.
So that's what the state is interested in making sure they protect the public from.
Right. And I mean, let's face it, if your roof is not strapped and nailed down properly, that's now a projectile object that can do harm to other people.
Everybody
and other
around
things.
you.
Yeah.
For sure.
So all that stuff is really important. What other kind of things have you seen get tagged on the 4-point inspection that really don't belong on there? They belong on the general home inspection.
From the 4-point side, I've seen some stuff like kick out flashing
And describe that for the person listening.
So a kick out flashing is a flashing that pushes water away from a wall so that the water won't just run down a side wall of your house. Again, state of Florida, constant improvement. They added that to code, but whenever a code change is made, a home built prior to that code does not have to meet current code. Only if you touch it and change it, then you have to bring it up to current code. So I see inspectors very frequently are applying current code to a home, say, built in 1980. A home built in 1980 had to be 1980s code, not today's. So, there's
your
that piece.
insurance too. You want to make sure you have law and ordinance coverage on that.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
if a storm does come through, it actually pays to bring your house up to current code.
Law and ordinance is a huge one. And if we unpack the insurance thing, one of my pet peeves is when buyers try to get the cheapest possible insurance. Like anything in life, it's how I sell. When I sell roofs to clients, it's not about price, it's about quality. What are you buying for that money? Other than fuel, I challenge anybody, name one thing that the lowest cost is always the best option. Right. You can't, right? It's the low cost is the cheapest option. And, these 2 hurricanes that hit with Ian and Helene, we saw tons of people that lost everything.
And Milton rolled in after that.
Yeah. And they did not have adequate coverage because they went with the cheapest policy possible, not worried about what it actually covered. And so you mentioned the codes and ordinances. What that means is insurance is going to pay to bring your house up to current code if you suffer a loss. That's potentially thousands of dollars in costs.
You have to start upgrading all this stuff.
Absolutely.
When you're like, I was just going to fix my roof. Yeah, no, you're not.
Yeah. And so we've had roofs where, the roof itself is a $30,000 roof. And out of that, $9,000 worth is code upgrades to meet current code, which means insurance isn't going to pay for it if you don't have that coverage.
Plus, you don't want to be on the other side of that. I mean, we've had Erin Donovan on the show multiple times. She's one of these attorneys that goes after the insurance companies to make them pay. And we see just crazy little stuff like this all the time. I mean, I was talking to a client yesterday that's like scared to death of investment properties because they had a property in Georgia. They moved out of it. They ended up renting it. The tenant set it on fire and the whole thing burned down. And then they just didn't have the bandwidth to fight with I'm not going to name the insurance company on it, but that's basically what they do is they just break them down to where they hope and they just walk away.
Yeah.
And and then with the changes also, like your attorneys used to be able to tack their fees on top, and now they can't do that anymore. So if you have $100,000 claim and the attorney is successful getting the insurance company to pay that, which you probably need them, now $30,000 of that roughly is going to go to the attorney, and then you still have to figure out where to come up with that difference.
Very true. And as a contractor that we help people when they suffer an insurance loss, I have a different view of the insurance companies. So I see the companies that automatically deny everything. And I see there's companies out there that are fantastic companies that will go above and beyond to make sure that the homeowners are put back together and whole. So I tell people, when you buy insurance, just check into what you're buying.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ian was 5 years ago? And I know for sure they're still in litigation on a lot of Ian claims.
Yes.
Can you imagine 5 years? Like you're displaced from your home for 5 years. Like where are these people living, in the meantime. So hopefully you had a little bit of money to get into another place, but we've just seen all kinds of funky stuff in the market.
It's been a very interesting 5 years.
Yeah,
in
we've had a lot change
real
in
estate
5 years.
and construction world.
It definitely has.
COVID, hurricanes, insurance changes, floods, FEMA. I mean, you name it. We've been hit with it.
And you guys have done a lot of that stuff too. I mean, we had one, I forget what storm it was, but there was some water that came in. It was my listing and it had just canceled. And then I was like, okay, we got to get a handle on this before we relist it so the seller even knows what to disclose. They moved out of the state. They had no idea what was wrong with it. I don't know if you remember that place in Holiday.
Yes, ma'am.
And I was like, all right, go check this out and see what it is and how we're going to fix it.
Yes. And that's another point. And I don't think realtors are necessarily aware of this, but apart from the 4 points inspections is do your due diligence on areas that flooded when you're selling real estate. I had another realtor that called. The home was rebuilt after having been flooded from Helene. The homeowner told her realtor, well, I didn't have to get a permit. We were exempted. So there's no such thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And so now she has to go get an after the fact permit. The county has they can make you remove everything, open walls. And if it was not rebuilt properly, again, by unlicensed contractors that don't know what they're doing, you have potential mold inside the walls. There's potential mold in the floor. We tested a lot of the water that came through homes, and with the thousands upon thousands of septic tanks in Florida, there's fecal matter, there's chloroform, there's all kinds of stuff that you do not want in your homes, that if you're not treating that properly, it's almost like a hazardous clean out before we can start the construction process. And that's why rebuilding is so expensive. We have to treat all that as hazardous waste almost.
And materials have gone up. I mean, a lot of things have changed.
For sure. So there's a lot of homes out there getting sold.
And after the facts permits, like I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Like I've had clients do that and I can see it all day long. I'm like, nope, I am not going to be the one listing this house unless we fix it.
Absolutely.
But after the fact permit means you didn't get a permit for anything. And now you're going back after it's done trying to get the permits. Not only is that expensive because like you said, the county can make them rip all or part of it out. Hopefully it's only part of it. But on top of that, they double your fines, right? So
whereas you could have gotten the permit for free before.
Right. And so people think they're just going to hurry up and do it. Well, they know what areas got flooded. I mean, the counties were going through taking pictures on everything and all the water lines. So they know if your home was flooded or not. You're not pulling a fast one. I think it's going to be a while before we see all this shake out.
I think so. And I think it's coming because they're doing outreaches right now where permit agencies are going into communities that they know flooded and they're offering after the fact permits. And I think this is kind of their way of saying, now's your chance to take on the amnesty.
Yeah.
Because we're about to drop the hammer. And to your point, if 12 homes on a street flooded, but 6 of them got permits, the other 6 that didn't, that are now rebuilt and people are living in, they're going to get a letter. They're going to get a notice.
Well, the municipalities took videos and photos.
They did.
Right after the storm, you could see the water line where it came up to the house. So you're not pulling one over.
Not at all. So
we got a little bit sidebarred, but that's been a big thing going on in our community for a while.
And it all ties back to insurance. It all ties back to being an informed buyer or an informed seller. And that's really where I try to help and leverage my experience and my knowledge to help educate people when they're buying a home. So if you have first-time home buyers, they get an inspection report and it's got 95 items on it. They're like, oh my God, the house is falling down. I don't want it.
It looks terrible.
Right. And at the end of the day, it's a lot of very minor. Think about it. If you sold your car and somebody nitpicked your car, they would have a list a mile long of things wrong with your car.
It probably wouldn't even be as long, Adam, on the car.
Right. But you drive it every day. It works. It's fine. There's no safety problems. It's kind of the same thing with a home inspection. That inspector is making sure that he discloses everything possible to keep from getting sued.
Well, that he finds. I mean, that's their job, right?
Yeah.
They should tell you everything they see that maybe you might not see because we're not on the roof. We're not in the attic.
Yes,
we're not crawling under a crawl space. The home inspectors are. We're not even insured to be on those places, nor is the buyer.
Right.
So that's what they should be doing. But some of these inspectors are out of control with the red lines, like the red all over the inspection report. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yes, ma'am.
Like, let's not scare the buyer. Let's just educate them. There's I've seen electrical stuff on there and it looks like the whole house is going to burn down. And this is like a 50-cent piece plus some labor,
Well, and there's some misinformation as well. I think there's inspectors that just make mistakes. They don't know better. Cases where old aluminum wiring is not against code, but I have inspectors flag it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still perfectly legal. It meets within current Florida building code that you can still use aluminum wire. It's insurable. Everything's fine. So in those cases, we educate the buyers and sellers. I educate the inspector himself, and I'll frequently write a letter and reference Florida building code.
Good.
So that you have a general contractor's statement, because, they put that drastic language of further investigation, get a licensed professional. So I, as that licensed professional, write letters of justification as, here's the code, here's the reference, this is why it's okay, you're good to go.
And I tell my buyers when they're looking at this, look, this is exactly what it is, right? It is a general home inspection.
Yes, ma'am.
They are not going to know everything that a roofer knows or an electrician knows or a plumber knows. And that's why they tell you, have those licensed pros take a look, and then you get that professional opinion, because that's their niche. That's what they specialize in.
Yes, ma'am.
And those are all different licensing requirements, right?
For sure.
So,
yes.
you can be a general contractor, but there's additional like plumbing, HVAC, electrical inspections that you can get.
Absolutely.
So anything else we should chat about as we wrap up this episode talking about the 4-point inspections? Because I feel like there's stuff we see in the field that we don't necessarily think about, and that I would love to educate the person listening.
I think, as you talked about with licenses, with the experts, when you have a home inspection as a realtor, reach out to a professional and have them review the report before you create your repair addendum. One of the things, and I've successfully negotiated some of these, where the buyers sent me the report and they sent me what they asked for, but they missed stuff that's really critical or safety related.
Yes.
And they asked for very trivial, inexpensive items. And so I've gone back and said, instead of asking for these surface level items, let's fix these core requirements and let's change the addendum. And both parties were amenable to agree. And so they renegotiated the addendum, and then we went and made the repairs.
Well, the problem is too, the realtors are not educated, and they're the ones guiding the buyer. And so if they're not educated, I've done this for 30 some years. So I've seen tens of thousands of home inspections and all of that stuff, but they're just not educated. I see this even, I have had 2 appraisals short in the same week. And I was a lender before, so I'm very well educated with the appraisal process and what that looks like. I know when the appraiser makes mistakes, when they adjust the wrong way, major things they miss. Most people can't read those. Like, your eyes will cross literally looking at those. And so, but literally the agent just says, oh, appraisal came in low, here's an addendum, modify the price, right? Well, I represent the seller and their best interest, right? And all the parties in it, but I'm looking at this appraisal going, no, there's major mistakes on here. You missed comps on the same street, right?
Right.
So then that appraiser ended up adjusting his price. It was like 20 some thousand short. He adjusted it about 15 up, but there were still major errors on it. Like, he had it priced for backing up to another house. We know that is not the same. Like, my client lived in the same neighborhood and waited for a new construction home to come up with a similar, better view. They didn't want to buy an interior house. So that was one of the ones they actually ended up making a complaint to the state, which we rarely see that, but I'm sure that appraiser will do some extra hours and continuing education. But just, there's so many people that are not educated. So I love that tip that you're leaving with buyers, is go to a general contractor, go to someone that knows how to read the report, can go through it in depth with you and choose the big things.
And one of the things I try to remind people is, it's always, and this applies anywhere in life, follow the money. If you follow the money, you can look at the motivations for why somebody is doing something. In my case, when I'm advising clients that are buying or selling a house, I don't have a dog in the fight. Mm-hmm. It's not going to cost me any money one way or the other. I'm just giving you my opinion, and it's free and it's worth what you paid for it.
Take it or leave it.
That's it. And so I just try to advise and help them make an educated decision for their own best interests. When we do roofing, when we do construction renovation projects, we're not always the best option for everybody,
right?
But that's okay. We know we're not going to be the right fit for everybody.
So one of the things that you guys are rocking at, and we'll just put a bow on this whole episode and talk about that, is when we get these things on the inspection side, especially when homeowners have been in their home for 10, 20, 30. Like the longer they are there, the longer that list is.
Yes, ma'am.
You just have deferred maintenance and stuff that people are not listening to. So we're really good about getting that list of concerns for the buyers, turning them over to you. You get an estimate, boom, you knock them out. We'll even bill the seller at closing. It's just easy for them. And I think they appreciate that. So that's a bulk of your work, right? That's what you do, a lot of it?
Yes. We're built around the real estate transaction process, and we understand the time constraints, the stress, the finances involved with buying and selling.
Right.
So, being able to pay at close is a huge benefit to a lot of sellers.
Well, yesterday, I just went out and had a consultation with a seller, and I had already signed their listing, but I was going back to give them their walkthrough and stuff to do. And I was like, you really need to paint your house. Like I'm touching it and it's chalky on my hands. Your paint's failed.
Right.
I was like, when was it painted last? He was like, oh, the seller before me. And I'm like, okay. He goes, but I just spent $22,000 on our roof. I get it, but you're giving the buyer a reason not to buy your house.
That's it.
And buyers are educated. They want, they want good, solid homes. And if you've got new construction around you, you better clean it up and make it look good.
You have to meet the market.
Yep.
For sure.
So if you want some information, you want Adam to look at some stuff, you want him to take a look at your 4-point or even give you a quote on roofs, because you guys do quite a bit of those. Our author number will get you connected is 813-377-2775. Again, 813-377-2775. You can call or text Adam or Ruth and we'll get you guys connected. I'm Katrina Madewell. This is Tampa Home Talk. Love where you live or we'll fix it. Welcome home.